Hey guys, this is Heather from healthyveganrecipes.net. Today we are going to make a soup because I promised my best friend that I would send her my technique for making soup, because I've made soup at her place before and we just kind of go into her massive, awesome pantry, see what food she's got, and kind of throw a soup together. She also doesn't have very much heat going on in her house during the winter, so soups are always good in the winter to warm you up. And so what I'm going to show you today is the technique of making soup so that you can then go on and make whatever kind of variations you want to make. And we're going to make a simple soup today that's just a loose soup, meaning that the base is water or vegetable stock, and then you just have free-floating vegetables and grains or beans or whatever you want in there. And I will post the recipe of the one that I'm going to put together at healthyveganrecipes.net. But the first thing we're going to do is start with the vegetables that I'm going to throw in there. That's where we get most of the flavor for any type of dish, is from the vegetables. So a basic soup is going to start being flavored with onion, often garlic, and I'm going to do a bit of an Asian flavor on this one, so I'm going to put some ginger in as well. Now normally cooks will saute these vegetables first in some oil, and I often do that on the show as well, but I'm trying to incorporate a bit more of my nutrition principles as opposed to just straight cooking. In the past I've shown techniques using oil, but it's a bit of a compromise. I do it because I feel like I can encourage more people to eat more vegetables, but ideally I wouldn't cook with oil at all. So that's what we're going to do today. And what you're going to do to start is just chop up your onion, your garlic, your ginger, and then I've also got some vegetables. So I'm going to do broccoli, zucchini, that kind of looks like a cucumber, but it's a zucchini, and some carrots. And one helpful tool I was reunited with recently in my kitchen is my potato scrubber, which I also use for carrots, and it turns orange, but it works really well to get some of that dirt and kind of tough carrot looking stuff off the edges without peeling, because a lot of the nutrition is right close to the skin in vegetables. So there we go. Starting with the vegetables, soups basically almost always have an onion. It really helps the flavor. You can use vegetable stock instead if the vegetable stock has some onion in it. So a soup will almost always start with an onion and some garlic. I'm doing a bit of an Asian flavored soup today, so I'm going to put in some fresh ginger as well. Now the cook's way of starting this off would be to saute these things in some oil, and then add your soup stock or your water and go from there. But I've been talking about reducing the oils that we use in our cooking over on my nutrition blog at healthyeatingstartshere.com. I do sometimes saute things with oil, and I show that on the show sometimes to encourage people in transition to get working with healthier foods. But it's a bit of a compromise for me. I really would prefer not to use oil in cooking, so today I'm going to show you that technique. And the other vegetables I'm going to put in this soup are zucchini, and this one happens to look slightly like a cucumber, but it's not, I promise. It is a zucchini. You can tell by the stem. I've got some beautiful looking broccoli and some carrots, and what I used for the carrots was my potato scrubber that turns orange when I use it on my carrots. It gets off some of the rougher looking bits of the carrot without having to peel it, because a lot of the nutrients in vegetables are right close to the skin. So I'm just going to get all this chopped up, and then we will move along with our soup. So I've got these things chopped up, and what I'm going to do, and this is a little tip that I picked up from Phil's sister Haley. Probably shouldn't even know that I noticed she did this, but she boiled the water in her electric kettle before putting it into the pot for the soup. That just is more efficient in getting the water boiling. So I'm going to put the water there, turn this up to get it to a boil. And I'm gonna throw the onions, the garlic, and the ginger right into this water. Now the reason a cook would saute these things before putting them in is that it works to seal in the flavor of each of these individual things and helps them to stay intact through the soup. It's a little bit hard to describe, but I mean, a sauteed onion is very different from a boiled onion, right? So what this is going to do is the flavors of those things are going to seep into the water as opposed to being sealed in and kind of standing on their own. They're just going to meld into the background. So it's kind of a different flavor that you're going to get, but it's still awesome. Now, I don't think that cooking with oils is the end of the world, and if you do, just make sure you use a little bit and don't heat it for too long. But as I said, it is a bit of a compromise in my thoughts on nutrition, so I'm going to show you an option for making it without oil today. Now, those are going to go, and you can put a lid on to minimize the energy needed to bring that to a boil. What I'm going to put in for fun, I guess, are some red lentils. And you can use any type of grain or bean or not. You can just stick with vegetables. These red lentils will make it more filling and substantial and whatnot. So those are going to go in right at the same time. They want to cook for a little while. Red lentils are split in half, so they actually cook pretty quickly, but they take longer to cook than my broccoli will. So I'm putting those in first. If you're doing a grain, they can take up to 45 minutes to cook, so they definitely go in first. And you're not going to put any salt in when you put a bean or a legume like a lentil. If you were doing grains, I would add some salt here, but with a legume, you do not want to add salt when they go in to cook, otherwise the outside of them will get hard and tough and it won't cook properly. Whereas with grains, it's the opposite. It actually helps the grains cook. So I'm going to leave this to boil. These red lentils take about 20 to 30 minutes. I'm probably going to leave it for 15 minutes, and then I'm going to come back, put my vegetables in, and season everything. Alright, so my lentils are looking very nicely cooked in here. They actually absorbed quite a bit of water, so I added a little bit more. I've got my vegetables chopped up. I'll throw them in. If you like carrots a little bit more cooked, you can throw them in earlier, because this is basically just going to be a light cook for them. And then I'm going to serve it up. I've got that broccoli going in there as well, and the zucchini. Things are getting a little bit full in my pot. My massive soup pot broke in my move, which I was very disappointed about, but it's okay. You can make it work. There's only Phil and I anyway, most of the time. Okay, so those vegetables are in. What I'm also going to add is some kelp, because I love to get sea vegetables in whenever I can. And the way I do this into soup is I use food scissors. So these are some scissors that came with our knives, and Phil and I only use them for food. It makes for a very efficient way to cut certain things. And I don't know if you can see it now, but this kelp is just very finely chopped. So you'll barely even notice it in this soup. But kelp is very rich in minerals, particularly iodine, which is good for the thyroid. And it's one of the things that is often neglected in our diets is sea vegetables, aka seaweed. Sea vegetable is just a little bit more appetizing of a word. Alright, so vegetables, sea vegetables in there. I'm going to add some seasoning, so I've got some black pepper. I'm going to add, am I going to really add this? I was thinking of putting some turmeric in here, but I'm not feeling it. So I'm going to go with the other one I was going to put in here, cumin. A little ground cumin. Spices can actually help in the digestion of other foods, so lentils are much easier to digest when you have certain spices, and cumin is one of the ones that really helps. Turmeric is another one as well, but I don't know. Something was telling my hand not to put it in, so I'm gonna listen to that. Now, I also normally would put a bit of salt in here, but what I'm going to do to season this is actually use some miso instead of salt. Miso has quite a high salt content in it, and it's a fermented soy product, so it's a very nice way to add some salts that are fermented into something else. But the thing about miso is it is a live culture, and if you put it into boiling hot water as it boils, it will kill them. So what you do is I'm going to let this cook for another, say, 5 minutes. Take it off the heat, let it cool a little bit, and then stir in my miso. For the fat content of this meal, I've been talking on the blog about whole food fats instead of oils. So I'm going to sprinkle some black sesame seeds on top. Alright, so my soup has cooked for a little while. I've taken it off the heat to let it cool a little bit, and then I've got a spoonful of miso that I'm going to stir in here. Now, not only does it kill the live cultures, but they say it doesn't taste as good if you stir this in when it's super, super hot and actually physically boiling. So, just stir that in. You can also dissolve it before you stir it in. When you get it fully dissolved, give the soup a little taste to make sure you like the seasoning. Give it a little blow. Make sure it doesn't burn your tongue. Very nice, very nice. So, I'm going to spoon some of this out. You may be thinking, her zucchini don't really look cooked, and no, they are very lightly cooked because Phil and I plan to have this for lunch again tomorrow, and I like to reheat it, and then the vegetables cook a little bit more. So when I first cook it, I don't cook them all that much. Then, like I said, for a little fat content, just gonna sprinkle some black sesame seeds on top here. And voila! Soup! I'll post this recipe as well as the basic technique for making soup over at healthyveganrecipes.net.